A girl from nowhere. The trade station of Chiral 4 floated quietly in orbit. Above a red desert planet, it was a busy place. Ships came and went, traders shouted. Machines hummed, every hallway was full of noise, light, and movement. Among all this, a quiet human girl stepped off a shuttle. She looked young, maybe 20. Her clothes were plain, she carried only a small black bag, her blonde hair was tied back, and her eyes stayed low, avoiding contact. She didn't say a word, the dock guards barely glanced at her. She passed through scanners without issue, just another traveler, nothing special. She looks like she's lost, one alien merchant said, watching her, probably a refugee. Another replied, too soft for this place. The girl found work quickly, she didn't ask for much. A cargo handler let her sweep floors and clean old crates in the lower storage area. She accepted the job quietly and worked without rest. Nobody remembered her name, they called her the quiet one. But strange things started happening. One night, a local thief tried to rob a small shop. He never came out. The shopkeeper said the door closed and locked itself and the power failed. When they opened the place again, the thief was unconscious, died. Up, weapon missing, no signs of a fight. The security team shrugged. Lucky break, but it happened again and again. Another night, a pirate ship docked and threatened a mechanic for parts. Hours later, the ship vanished. The mechanic was unharmed. The pirate crew was never found. Nobody connected it to the quiet girl. She was always working, always alone, until someone did notice. A bounty hunter passed through the station, scanning faces for known targets. His scanner beeped when it passed the girl. He looked confused, checked the device, scanned. Again, his face turned pale. He backed away, fast. Just a ghost, he muttered. Then he left the station that same hour. Later that night, the old alien janitor who worked near the girl spoke to his friend. She moves too quietly, he said. Her steps make no sound, her eyes don't blink much. You're imagining things, his friend replied. No, the janitor whispered. I've seen that before, long ago. During the Silent War, the next day, the station was crowded. A shipment of high-grade tech had arrived and many traders came for it. In the market area, a group of loud, rough mercenaries walked in. They were armed and half drunk. One of them, a tall alien with red skin, bumped into the girl as she passed. Guys, watch it, little mouse, he growled, pushing her shoulder. She didn't react, just stepped back and lowered her head. Another merc laughed. She's scared. The red-skinned one raised his hand to push her again. In less than 2 seconds, he was on the ground, arm twisted behind his back, groaning in pain. No one saw how she did it. They only saw the result. She stepped back, calm, hands down. The other mercenaries looked at her, surprised. You want to try next? She asked quietly. They didn't. The station guards checked the footage later. They slowed it down, frame by frame. She had moved with perfect timing, no wasted motion. No panic, she's trained, one officer said. No, she's too clean, too fast, said another. They ran her ID. The system showed nothing unusual, a human name, a blank record. A refugee from a destroyed colony, but one guard tried an old Earth War database, using a backdoor code from his days in military service. The result was a sealed file, classified Earth Black Vault subject code, ECHO-13 threat level. Undefined status, escape. The guard stared at the screen. What did we let in? Meanwhile, the girl walked to the station's upper deck. She stood by the window, looking at the stars. Another worker, a young engineer, came and stood beside her. Hey, he said gently. That was amazing, what you did earlier. She didn't reply. Are you military? He asked. No, she said simply, but you fought like one. She looked at him, her eyes cold but not cruel. I don't fight, she said, not unless I have to. Then she turned and walked away. Behind her, the stars burned bright. And the galaxy had no idea that it had already made its greatest mistake. The first mistake. The cargo hangars of Chiral 4 buzzed with movement the next day. Ships came in and out, traders yelled over crates, and the smell of fuel and metal filled the air. No one paid much attention to the quiet girl mopping the floor. She stayed in corners, moved quickly, and never spoke unless asked. But something had changed. The mercenaries from the market were still on the station. Their leader, the red-skinned alien whose arm she twisted, was now in a sling. He hadn't slept, his pride was shattered. He sat with his crew in a dirty lounge room, drinking something strong and bitter. He slammed the cup down. I want her gone, he growled. One of his crew, a short, sharp-eyed lizard-like alien, laughed. She embarrassed you, boss, in front of everyone. Another added. She made you cry like a hatchling. The red-skinned merc slammed his fist on the table. She's nothing, just a girl I slipped, that's all. The others nodded, but they weren't so sure. The way she moved, it wasn't normal. Still, the leader gave the order. Tonight, quietly. She won't see us coming that night. The power flickered across the lower levels. A small cleaning robot rolled into the hallway and froze. 3 mercenaries moved through the shadows, no armor, no guns, just silent blades and stunners. They wore dark cloaks and stayed close to the walls. They found her in a storage room. Wiping dust off a crate, she turned around slowly. Her eyes scanned them calmly. "You shouldn't be here," she said softly. One of them sneered. "And you should have stayed weak." They charged. The room went dark. Only seconds passed. When the lights flickered back on, all 3 mercenaries were on the ground. One was gasping. One was unconscious. The third stared at the ceiling, unmoving. The girl stood still, not a scratch on her, her hair slightly out of place, her eyes colder now. She looked at the blinking security camera in the corner, then quietly walked away. The video was reviewed by the command deck an hour later. "What just happened?" the station chief demanded. "She took them all down, no weapons." "No effort," said the technician, shaking. "But how?" the chief whispered. "She's just..." The screen froze on her face, calm, empty, like someone who had done this before. Many times a silent alarm was sent to the Galactic Patrol. Subject: suspected combat class, human, operative status, lose threat level. Under review. The patrol ship was already nearby. They received the signal and began scanning the station. Meanwhile, the girl sat alone in a small maintenance bay. The station lights hummed above her. She held a small cloth, cleaning her hands. Her movements were careful, exact. The young engineer from before found her again. "I saw what happened," he said quietly. She didn't answer. "You could have killed them all, but you didn't." Still silent, he sat beside her. "Why do you hold back?" She finally looked at him. Her voice was calm but heavy. "Because if I don't, no one gets up again." He nodded, unsure what to say. Then he asked the one question that had been haunting him since he first saw her. "What are you?" She stared at him. Then answered, "A mistake they tried to erase." The patrol ship landed 2 hours later. Soldiers stepped out, armored and armed. The captain of the unit had seen war. He had fought on 5 planets. He didn't fear anything. Until now, he opened the old Earth military file on his pad. It was incomplete, but what he saw made him pause. Project Echo designation, Echo 13 purpose, covert termination, infiltration and planetary sabotage. Status, missing, presumed destroyed, warning, do not confront alone. He looked at his team. "We move carefully. No sudden actions." Back in the hallway, Lyra stood by the docking window again. Looking at the stars, the young engineer approached. "Once more, the patrol is here for you." She didn't seem surprised. He looked scared. "Will you run?" "No," she said. "Running only makes them chase faster." "Then what will you do?" She turned to him. Remind them of what?" She looked toward the sky. "That not every weapon forgets how it was forged." As the patrol entered the station and moved down the corridor, the lights dimmed slightly. Security cams caught her walking slowly through the hallway, hands at her sides, expression blank. Boots echoing on the floor. One guard whispered to another, "She doesn't even look dangerous," but deep inside, they all felt the truth. They had just made their first mistake, and she would not forget it. The hidden past. The Galactic Patrol officers walked slowly down the dim corridor of Chiral 4. Each step echoed, each shadow felt deeper than the last. They were trained for dangerous situations, pirates, riots, alien uprisings, but this was different. Their scanners weren't working properly near her. Cameras kept glitching, communications crackled, something about the air itself had changed. "She's just one girl," one officer whispered. "Yeah," said another, "that's what scares me." At the same time, in the control room of the station, Captain Morin stood before a locked screen. His senior tech had just bypassed 2 layers of encryption from an old Earth military database. "What are we even looking at?" the captain asked. The tech looked pale. "A ghost file, sir, a project that shouldn't exist." On the screen, glowing red letters appeared. "Project Echo, File 13A status, classified subject codename. Echo 13 origin, Earth Black Core profile. Engineered human, combat unit training, infiltration, silent termination. Fear-based warfare directive, no public record, no witnesses, no capture." Then, a photo appeared. It was her, Lyra, younger, hair shorter, eyes colder. Captain Morin stepped back. "They made her," he said quietly. The tech nodded. "Then they tried to erase her." Back near the docking bay, Lyra stood calmly in the middle of a quiet maintenance hallway. The patrol team approached her, weapons lowered but ready. The lead officer raised a hand. "Lyra, you are ordered to stand down. This is for your safety." She said nothing. He continued, "You are not under arrest, but your presence is causing fear. We need to talk." Still, she did not move. Then she spoke. "You don't want to talk. You want to check if the stories are true." The officer blinked. "We're here to assess a potential threat." "I am a threat," she said simply. "But only if you make me one." Far above the station, a listening post received a burst transmission from the patrol team. Aboard a large, dark Earth ship hidden in the asteroid belt, Commander Rillan listened. He wore no insignia, his face was calm, but his fingers tapped fast. "She's alive," he said to no one in particular. His second-in-command turned. "Echo 13. I thought she was destroyed during the shadow retreat." "She survived," Rillan said, "and she's remembering." "Orders, sir." He looked out into the stars. "Watch, if she turns, we'll move." Back on the station, the officer made a careful choice. He signaled his squad to step back. "We're not here to fight," he told her. "That's the smartest thing you've said," Lyra replied. Then she turned around and walked away. No one stopped her. Later that night, the engineer Tarin found her sitting quietly in the lower decks, near the old air filters. He sat beside her. This time, he didn't speak right away. She finally asked, "Why do you keep following me?" Tarin smiled. "Because I don't think you're a monster." She looked away. "You haven't seen what I've done." "Maybe not," he said. "But I see what you haven't done. You could have killed them. You didn't. That's control." She replied, "It's not kindness." He thought for a moment. Control is still a choice. She said nothing, but her eyes softened slightly. Up above, the council of the station met in secret. "We need to remove her," one alien said. "This station cannot become a target." "She hasn't attacked anyone without cause," another replied. "But she's dangerous. She's human." "They all are," a third member leaned forward. "Not like this. She's not just human, she's designed." Silence filled the room finally. One voice said what they were all thinking: if she wanted us dead, we'd already be gone. Meanwhile, deep in the station's forgotten tunnels, Lyra stood before a sealed door. Old, broken, rusted, but behind it, something waited. She placed her palm on the scanner. It beeped once. The door creaked open. Inside was a crate, small, black, marked with faded symbols: Earth Mill X, Black Core ECHO 13, Minlink Gear. "Do not reactivate." Opened it. Inside was a sleek headset. Memories hit her like a wave: training fields, tests, pain, missions, silence. A voice echoed in her mind: "You were made to be fear itself." She closed the crate again and whispered, "No, not anymore." But she knew the galaxy remembered her differently. And soon, it would remember her name. They sent hunters across the stars. Far from Chiral 4, the name Echo 13 reached the wrong ears. In a black asteroid fortress, deep within Syndric space, a warlord named Threx snarled at the hologram in front of him. The footage showed a quiet human girl taking down trained mercenaries with no armor and no hesitation. "Is this a trick?" Threx growled. "No, Commander," his advisor replied. "She's real." "Then send the Huntburn." Threx ordered. "I want to see if this Echo bleeds." The Huntburn were Threx's private elite, a group of genetically enhanced killers. From four different species, they didn't fail, ever. Their orders were simple: bring her back alive if possible, dead if needed. Back on Chiral 4, Lyra continued to work. She moved through the station as if nothing had changed, as if no galactic alert had been triggered by her name, but beneath her calm steps, she knew something had shifted. Tarin, the young engineer, followed her more often now. Not to spy but to learn. "Why don't you hide?" he asked her one evening as she repaired a coolant pipe. "I already hid," she said. "They found me anyway, but you could go to a system where no one knows your name. They'd just follow," she replied, "and more people would die along the way." Tarin swallowed. "Then, what will you do?" She didn't answer. 3 nights later, they came. The Huntburn arrived silently in the dark. No announcements, no dock records. They slipped in through an old maintenance tunnel, spreading through the lower decks like ghosts. One was tall and armored, with 4 arms and a scanning visor. Another was thin, with needle-like fingers and a soft whispering voice. The third moved like a shadow, vanishing between flickering lights. The fourth was a brute, massive, brutal, silent. They found her alone in a backup power room, checking cooling valves. "She's unarmed," one hissed over comms. "Doesn't matter," another replied. "Don't look into her eyes." They moved together fast and sure. Lyra didn't look up, not at first. She waited. Then, just before they struck, she spoke. "You're not the first," the brute charged. She moved like a whisper, low, fast, precise. His foot hit the ground, then slipped. She'd sprayed the floor with coolant. He fell. Before the others could react, the lights went black. Sparks exploded from the wall, then silence. Then screams, station alarms blared. Minutes later, security teams raced down to the lower levels. But by the time they arrived, it was over. The brute lay unconscious, his armor torn. The shadow one was tangled in wires, electrocuted and twitching. The needle-fingered one had a broken wrist and a dislocated jaw. The fourth missing. Lyra stood near the corner, breathing slow, not even scratched. Tarin arrived, wide-eyed. "Are you okay?" She nodded. "What happened?" She looked down at the Huntburn. They weren't here to talk. The station council panicked. Their secret was no longer safe. "She's a threat to our safety," one counselor shouted. "She is our safety," another replied. "She just saved half our lower decks." "But what happens when someone worse comes?" "She is the worst." The second said quietly, and she's on our side. That night, Lyra returned to the same hidden chamber where she had found the crate. She placed her hand on the wall and whispered old code phrases, words she hadn't spoken in years. The wall opened, revealing an old suit, black, lightweight, glowing red in the seams, not for offense, not for pride, just survival. She didn't want it, but she needed it. She stared at the armor for a long time before closing the wall again. Not yet. Across the galaxy, Threx received the Huntborn's failure report. He crushed the message orb in his claws. She's better than we thought. Do we send more? His general asked. Threx's eyes glowed. No. Now we send a message. The next morning, an Earth diplomat's shuttle exploded just outside Chiral 4. No survivors. The explosion could be seen from the station's top deck. Tarin and Lyra stood side by side. Was that for you? He asked. She nodded slowly. They're not hunting me anymore, she said. They're declaring war. From that moment on, everyone aboard Chiral 4 knew one thing. This wasn't just about a girl with a quiet walk and calm voice. This was about something much larger. They hadn't feared her when she arrived, but now the galaxy was beginning to remember. And the real storm was only beginning. The galaxy notices the explosion of the Earth diplomat's shuttle was not just seen, it was recorded, broadcast, and replayed across 1,000 star systems within hours. The name Lyra, or more accurately, Echo 13, began to spread. It started as a whisper on backwater planets. Then came the headlines on central trade networks. Unknown human girl survives Sindrak. Assassins again. Project Echo. Is she real or a ghost story? Galaxy's deadliest weapon is just one girl. People argued. Some said she was a myth. Others claimed to have seen her. And very few had survived meeting her. But one thing was now certain. The galaxy had noticed. On Chiral 4, station life became strangely quiet. Cargo traffic slowed. Traders left. Security was doubled, then tripled. Inside, Lyra continued her routine as if nothing had changed. She still cleaned filters, she still walked silently, but now, eyes followed her with fear and awe. Tarin stayed close, no longer just out of curiosity. Do you ever get scared? He asked one night, while she watched the stars from a small observation room. Yes, she said softly. He blinked. Really? She turned toward him, not of dying. I'm afraid of becoming what they think I am. Tarin stayed quiet. He didn't fully understand, but he respected it. The Galactic Council called a special session. Alien leaders sat in tall golden chambers, screens flickering around them, displaying footage. Reports, old war logs. She is a leftover from a dark time, one alien senator said. We must act. A reptilian diplomat leaned forward. She has done nothing but defend herself. We're the ones who attacked. She's destabilizing entire sectors. She's one human. The oldest member of the council, a pale, four-eyed being named Vern, raised one long finger. You're all wrong, he said. She is not one human. She is what humans become when you push too far. Silence followed. Back on Chiral 4, something unexpected happened. Messages started arriving, coded signals from fringe colonies. Lost rebels, outlaw systems. Some simply said, is it true? Are you real? Others begged, help us. They're burning our homes. Lyra read each one. She did not reply, but she remembered. Then came the attack, not from bounty hunters this time, but from an official Sindrak military vessel, heavy armed, legal. They came with false smiles and false claims. We're here for trade inspection, they said. Captain Morin knew better. He looked at Lyra and said quietly, they're here for you. She nodded. Then let them find me. The Sindrak commander marched through the station, his face full of pride. Behind him, 10 armored soldiers spread out, scanning levels. Tarin watched from a side corridor. You can't fight them all, he whispered. I don't need to, Lyra said. She walked straight to the main hall and sat down. In the open, calm. It was bait. And they took it. The Sindrak soldiers surrounded her, guns raised. Echo 13, the commander said loudly, by order of Galactic Treaty, you are to surrender. She looked up. No, she replied. You are outnumbered. Yes, then? You are a fool. No, she said again. I'm a mirror. The lights cut out. Alarms screamed. In the darkness, screams followed. When the lights came back on, all 10 soldiers were on the ground, alive, but unable to move. The Sindrak commander stood frozen in place. Lyra stood inches from his face, her fingers glowing faintly with electric pulse. If you ever come here again, she said softly, you won't leave breathing. Then she walked away. The commander didn't stop her. He couldn't. By the next day, the Sindrak fleet had pulled back from for systems near Earth space on pirate stations. Smugglers toasted to her name. On rebel colonies, children wore hand-drawn armor with E13 on their chests. On Earth, the military said nothing, but their warships moved just a little closer to Chiral 4. Lyra watched all of it unfold on a cracked screen. Tarin sat beside her. You didn't ask for any of this, did you? She shook her head. But you're not running, he said. No, she answered. Because if I run, the wrong people will rise in my place, he nodded slowly. You're not just surviving anymore, Lyra. She turned her eyes to him, cold, focused, calm. I know. No one is safe. The Sindric commander limped back to his ship with help from two guards. His armor was scorched, his pride shattered. He didn't speak to anyone during departure. And after that day, no Sindric ship entered Cairo for airspace again. But the damage was already done. What began as rumors had now become fear, not just fear of Lyra, fear of what she represented. In the following weeks, everything changed. Pirate lords in the outer belts began retreating from trade lanes. Powerful mercenary guilds canceled contracts involving human targets. Slave rings stopped operating near Earth-linked systems. Even assassins refused missions involving a girl with quiet steps and red eyes. A strange, invisible line had been drawn through space. And no one dared cross it. Lyra kept walking the station like before, silent, calm. She still cleaned, repaired, helped workers. But everyone gave her space now. No one dared push her in the hallway. No one dared speak her name too loudly. She hadn't lifted a weapon since the Sindric takedown, but somehow her silence was louder than any explosion. One night, Tarin found her sitting on the edge of the outer platform, staring at the stars. He sat beside her, quiet for a while. Then he asked, "Why didn't you kill them?" Lyra kept looking at the stars. "Because the ones watching needed to know something." "What's that?" She turned her head slightly. "That I still choose." Back on Earth, inside a military complex deep under ice, high-ranking human officers watched her every move through satellite feeds and reports. "She's protecting our name," one general said. "She's also acting without orders," another snapped. "She's doing what none of us can," said the third. "She's reminding the galaxy that humans are not prey." "Should we bring her in?" Silence. Then, "No. Let her be what they fear. Let them remember why they signed the peace." Meanwhile, on a council world light years away, leaders of 5 alien empires gathered. Secret meeting. "No recordings. She must be eliminated," said one. "Or she will inspire others." "Inspire them to do what?" asked another. "To survive, to fight back," the first replied, "and win." The room fell silent. Then a deep voice rumbled from a shadowed corner. "She's not the only one, you know." Eyes turned to an old warrior from the Eridani Empire. "We made many like her. She just lived." Back on Cairo 4, strange things began to happen. 3 stations were destroyed, each one home to ex-officers from the project that made Lyra. No survivors. A Sindric warlord's palace vanished overnight, just a crater left behind. No evidence. No witness. Only one thing was found, a single black feather, burnt, scorched. Some claimed it was Lyra, some said it was something worse, something she woke up. Tarin grew worried. "You're not the same," he said one day as she fixed a coolant tube. Lyra didn't look up. "I was never the same. I mean, you're colder now, distant." She paused. "That's because I'm being watched." He frowned. "By who?" "Everyone," she said. "Enemies, allies, ghosts." He swallowed. "And what do they want?" She looked at him. "Some want me dead, some want me to lead. But most, they just want to know if I'll stay quiet." The next day, a strange transmission hit the station, a message not from a government, but from the people of a ruined colony. To sectors away, they showed images: burned homes, dead families, Sindric ships above their skies. Then the message ended with 3 words: "We need her." Lyra sat alone that night, holding the broken pieces of her past, her old Mindling chip, her torn ID badge from the project, a burned-out patch from her unit. She hadn't cried in years. She didn't now, but she was close, because in the galaxy's silence, something had changed. She was no longer just surviving, she was being called. Tarin approached carefully. "You saw the message?" She nodded. "They need help." "I know. Will you go?" She looked at him. "I'm not sure if I'll come back." He smiled sadly. "You never really came back the first time." She stood, grabbed her coat, and walked toward the docking bay. Behind her, Tarin called out, "Lyra?" She turned. "You're not alone anymore," he said. She held his gaze for a moment, then nodded once, and vanished into the shadows once more. The galaxy now knew one truth. She didn't wear a crown. She didn't lead an army. She didn't seek revenge. But where she walked, no one was safe. Not tyrants. Not hunters. Not even the stars. The warrior within the freighter Ash Wind landed on the ruined colony just after dawn. Dust still hung in the air, buildings stood half broken, smoke rose from distant fires. The people, what was left of them, watched silently from the shadows, and then she stepped off the ship. No grand entrance, no armor shining. Just a woman in a long coat with calm eyes and a quiet walk. Lyra. They had sent the message, and she had answered. A child stepped forward. His clothes were torn and his face was smeared with ash. "Are you the one?" he asked. She knelt to meet his eyes. "What do you think?" He studied her face. "You don't look like a hero." I'm not, she said, but I'm here. He reached out and touched her hand. You feels real. I am. That was enough. Over the next few hours, Lyra walked through the ruined colony. She listened. She asked questions. She stood where buildings once stood. She stood where blood had dried into the stone dot, and then she found the body of a woman burned, but still clutching a small metal toy in her arms. Lyra didn't speak. She just closed her eyes. And something inside her unlocked. Not rage, not grief. Something colder. Older. A memory of what she was trained to be, of why she was made. That night, 5 Syndric gunships hovered above the colony. No warning, no mercy. Burn it, the captain ordered. They called the human. They must learn what that brings. But as their weapons powered up, one by one, the ships began to fall from the sky. Not from missiles. Not from Earth's fleet, but from something faster. Something already inside. Something that moved like silence and hit like thunder. Inside the last ship, the captain stood alone. Blood on his uniform, sirens wailing. The lights flickered and she stepped out of the smoke. Lyra. No armor. No backup. Just her. He raised his blaster. She didn't flinch. I should have killed you when I had the chance. He spat. You never had it, she replied. He fired. She moved. The blaster clattered to the floor. He fell to his knees, coughing, clutching his ribs. She stood over him. You wanted to send a message, she said. So did I. And then she walked away, leaving him alive, barely. Because sometimes fear lasts longer than death. The next morning, the colony was quiet. No more Syndric ships. No more threats. Just people rebuilding, children laughing again, and her watching from the edge of a burned wall. Taryn's voice came through her calm. I saw the reports, he said. You were there. Yes, they say you're turning into a myth. I'm not, she said. I'm a reminder. A reminder of what? She looked to the stars. That silence doesn't mean surrender. That fear can belong to the ones who cause it. Far away, on a distant moon where the Galactic Council met in secret, someone asked, why haven't we stopped her? And the answer came from the Eridani representative. Because you don't stop a storm, you survive it. Or you stay out of its path. On Earth, a final file was marked sealed. Echo 13, active status, uncontrolled but effective. Recommended action, none. She is doing what we no longer can. Note, she still chooses who lives. That's what makes her human. And somewhere in deep space, a small ship drifted between stars. Inside, Lyra sat alone. She wasn't running. She wasn't hunting. She was waiting for the next call. The next cry. The next place where her silence would speak louder than war. Because now, the galaxy had learned one lesson. She didn't look dangerous, but the warrior within her terrified the stars.